And welcome back to Comic Frontline, everybody. I'm Brant Fowler, aka the Gonzogoose, back with you for another comic review. This time, I'm going to talk about something that's near and dear to me. I'm talking about WWE Then, Now, Forever, #1. This is basically a sampler, kind of a preview book of new series that are coming out from Boom Studios in January and beyond. And this one, the lead story focuses on the Shield, and then there's some backup stories and some one-shots from San Diego Comic-Con. Before I get into that, the reason I really wanted to review this book is because, as you guys know, I'm a huge wrestling fan. I've been watching wrestling since I was 6 years old. Been watching, CWA, NWA, WCW, TNA, ROH, WWE, ECW, list goes on and on. I love wrestling. USWA, WCCW, AWA back in the day for all you old schoolers. I've always loved wrestling and I've always watched it. So when they said a brand new WWE comic was coming out, I was excited, but a little skeptical because for those of you that, like me, are wrestling fans and have tried these previous wrestling comics, not all of them are all that great. Now, back in the day, like the 90s, they tried to publish, Titan actually tried to publish some graphic novels, and they were kind of cheesy, kind of cartoony, and it fit at the time, whatever. WCW, they put out some comics, I believe through Marvel, and they tried to incorporate them into some weird real-life situations that were kind of odd, like one bad guy, superstar, or heel, blowing up a cruise ship that the other wrestlers were on. Yeah. And then Chaos Comics did some one-shots with some of the wrestlers, The Rock, Chyna, Undertaker, but they took a supernatural bend or did something different with them like that. That's usually what you get with wrestling comics. You get them going outside the box. Now, recently, WWE did their own ongoing series, but they kind of did it as this alternate reality kind of thing, and they tied in like a Secret Wars type thing, and it got really weird too. So, when this one came out, it said it was focusing on the breakup of the Shield, the very first book, WWE #1, which comes out in January. It was going to focus on the breakup of the Shield. Seth Rollins, Roman Reigns, and Dean Ambrose, who were together for 2 years, broke up 2 years ago, and each of their storylines have gone on. I'm wearing a Roman Reigns jacket right now. So I'm a big fan of the Shield. Thought this was pretty cool. They're going to tell some of the behind-the-scenes story of what happened. Now, another thing that prompted me to do this review is that I read a written review of this book, no spoilers, that was fantastic. It was a glowing review talking about how this was different than all the other wrestling comics, and it really painted them in a great light, and the art was fantastic, and so on and so forth. And I was like, I've really got to read this book, and I don't review that many books, but I really want to review this one because I'm a wrestling fan, and it kind of makes sense that I would. All right, so I go into this first with a little skepticism, and then I'm like pumped. I'm excited for this, so I start reading it. Before I say my thoughts on the book, this is written by Dennis Hopeless with from Avengers Arena fame, Spider-Woman, and with art by Dan Mora, Klaus from Boom Studios, if you guys are familiar with that book that I've championed on the Comic Frontline live show. So, solid writing, solid art, you would think. And don't get me wrong, it actually is. But it sounds like a winning team. Especially if they're wrestling fans, which I don't know if they are or not. I can't speak of that. So, getting into the actual book, and there might be minor spoilers. I'll try to keep them to a minimum because the book did just come out today, and I don't want to spoil it for you guys that haven't got a chance to read it. Or I should say yesterday, because this will probably post tomorrow. But either way, all right. So, those are my thoughts. Now, going into this book, it starts off really solid. Seth Rollins is narrating. He's saying, "My name is Seth Rollins. I'm the architect of the greatest faction in WWE history." And then it kind of goes into, I'm holding this black steel chair in my hands, and all I can think about is being on top, kind of thing. And then it goes to a flashback for 2 weeks ago, before Payback, before the whole episode of Raw where he turned on the Shield, and goes back to that, and they're hanging out backstage, grilling steaks on top of a Raw truck, which then Dean Ambrose promptly kicks the grill off and then starts driving the truck with Roman on top of it. Okay, now, before I go any further, let me clarify. I did not expect them to completely break kayfabe and be all like, have Triple H or Vince McMahon walk up to them backstage in the comic and be like, the Shield has been great, but it's time for a change. We want to break Seth Rollins out and make him a heel and kind of send you guys on your own path and have all these feuds and all these storylines. And we think it'll be great, best for business kind of thing. I didn't think they were going to do that. I didn't want that. What I did want and what I did expect was a little bit more realism. I mean, you have backstage altercations between some factions like this. They're really like this. Like the Wyatts chase them down to a yacht party and crash through a building with their SUV or Jeep or whatever they had and start a fight in the middle of all these people. And not to mention that the Shield, everywhere they go, they're in their wrestling gear. They're grilling steaks in their wrestling gear. They're attending yacht parties in their wrestling gear. It's at least give us a little realism, a little believability with this. So I was a little bit disappointed with that take on it, with that aspect. That aside, it was fine. They came up with an interesting way to create the animosity between Seth and his brothers in the Shield, and him being unhappy with his station as part of a group, and he really wants to be the best of the best. And that aspect of it, they got right. I felt like they really delivered on that aspect of it. And the art was gorgeous. I feel like they got the wrestling action. It was a little bit, just a tad bit over the top, but then wrestling is over the top. So, but all in all, I appreciated the effort that they put into it, both with the storytelling and the art. I just wanted something just a little bit different, so I wasn't totally sold on it like I thought I would be. But, you can't please everybody. So, in addition to that, we got a backup story of the New Day, who I believe they're getting their own series as well. This was definitely over the top, way over the top. It went Bill and Ted kind of thing. They're traveling back in time in that cardboard box. They did a segment on Raw, but they are kind of a goofy group. They're jokers, and they do weird things like that, and they're also comic fans and stuff like that, so it made sense. It was this kind of otherworldly kind of humorous kind of thing, and I appreciated that. And they go back to the dinosaurs and Ric Flair's in the ring wrestling. So I mean that was funny. And then you have all these one shots that they did for San Diego Comic-Con, kind of chronicling the legacy of different characters, like The Undertaker and The Rock and Triple H and Stone Cold and so on and so forth. And I thought those were really nicely done. Oh, and there was one other backup with Sasha Banks. And this was beautiful because anybody that knows Sasha Banks knows she's a huge fan of Eddie Guerrero, who sadly deceased. And his death actually hit me really hard. I wrote this really big blog post, and it really tore me up for some reason. I was a huge fan of his, and the fact that she is, and it showed her as she's talked about on screen, that she's sitting in front of a TV and watching Eddie Guerrero and says, I want to do that someday. And then it chronicles her whole adventure through WWE and climbing through the ranks, and then she's doing Eddie's moves in the middle of the ring, and then there's a little girl in the crowd that says, I want to do that. And it was just this nice historical thing. I love that backup story more than the rest of the book, really. It was really touching. But as far as the lead story goes, it was fine. It left off before he betrays the Shield, so you're going into the series, you just get that little bit of a teaser, which I thought was nicely done overall. And like I said, nice art, some nice backup features and stories and so on and so forth. So for a sampler, for a preview book, I thought it was really well done. I don't know. Everybody's going to be different in what they want out of this book. But I hope you guys at least check it out, especially if you're wrestling fans. And I hope you guys check out, at least the first couple issues of the ongoing series when it debuts. Because I think it could be a really fun series for wrestling fans and for anybody that just likes some fun storytelling with some action and some drama. That's what this is. And Dennis Hopeless does that very well. He's able to tell stories with multiple characters and kind of keep them all on an even kill. So for that, I appreciate this. But I'm going to give this book a 3.5 out of 5. It was above average, solid read, really nice art, some nice backup features. So 3.5 out of 5. I'd love to bump it up to a 4, but it just didn't quite grab me as much as I wanted to. So 3.5 out of 5 for WWE, Then, Now, Forever, #1. And that's going to wrap up this review right here on Comic Frontline. Join us for some more reviews. I'm actually going to come back every single week with at least one review. That's my commitment to you guys from now on, from here on out. One book a week from yours truly. The hauls for Lisa and I, they're kind of on hold for a while. I'll go into that in detail somewhere else, some other time, why that is. And it has nothing to do with anything like that. We want to do them. We're not able to do them right now. So, bottom line. Check out all the other content here on Comic Frontline. Join us for the live show. Join me and Lisa on Chris's Dark Avenger Live as we talk about Last Emperor Press and show some Celestial Falcon inking and coloring and whatever. And check out lastemperorpress.com. We have a Patreon page, patreon.com/lastemperorpress, if you'd like to check that out as well. And listen to Zone 4 right here on Comic Frontline. There will be a new episode towards the end of the month. And that's going to wrap it up for me and for this video. So thank you guys for watching. I'll see you